This is a short bite episode of Homeschool Together. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together podcast short bite edition. Choo Choo Homeschoolers. Today we're talking about Ticket to Ride.
This may seem like a basic one. I mean,
it's everywhere now. Like
a lot of folks have it. You can find it at Target and I think Walmart now. So it seems basic, but we just, in case you hadn't heard of Ticket to Ride or you weren't sure of all the flavors of Ticket to Ride, that's the thing that I love the most. This is such a great family game, early child game. If you get the junior edition called Ticket to Ride First Journey, this has so much learning. It's just great. It's a huge geography boost.
Yeah, big geography boost, but also counting, managing resources,
strategy.
It kind of all blends into it. So let's talk a little bit about it. Very often this is it's always, I think, I have not seen a version that's not geography focused.
Yeah, no, they are all geography focused.
So if you're doing an around the world study, if you're looking to incorporate different types of areas into maybe a long unit study, they have, I think, about a dozen different variants now of the game.
I think they've got USA, they have Europe, Scandinavia, there's Africa, India, Switzerland, Japan. Then they have a couple cities. They have New York and London.
And there's a few others.
I might be missing something. I think they might have another Asia one. But Anyway,
they're constantly rolling out new editions.
And you can find some great print and play versions on Board Game Geek as well.
There's a Seattle one.
There's an Emerald City one that looks gorgeous. I really want to do it at the plotter at work.
Yeah.
Because it just looks really pretty. But anyway, so it's if you haven't heard of Ticket to Ride before, it's a large board game that will feature one map, whichever country. Let's say it's USA. So it's got USA. The cities are marked there, and then there are little dashes between the cities that are different colors. So it could be 3 blue dashes between Houston and Dallas, or it could be 5 blue dashes between New York and Chicago, let's say. Yeah. So these represent the cards that you have to play in order to put your train between those two cities. So
you're trying to punch tickets.
Right. You'll have to play these like 5 blue cards or 5 green cards, whatever, to put your trains. And right, what Matt's saying, you have these tickets that say, I need to get from Los Angeles to New York. And of course, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Mm-hmm. And I need to collect cards of certain color so that I can play trains to connect all the cities and make one loop to New York. And you get points for each one that you complete. And you can draw more cards and you don't know what everyone else is going for. So it's great in that, obviously you're learning all this geography. What are my multiple ways to get to the destination that I need? How do I strategically manage my resources? How do I maybe say put my trains here first because that's a very congested area, and I think maybe my opponents will want to put trains there, or this is a key link that I have to have, right? Because there's only, depending on the players, there may only be one connection between those cities. Yeah. So you got to get it before somebody else does.
Some cities have 2 connections where you can actually take advantage of 2 different colors, but I don't think that's available in the 2-player version.
Exactly.
When you're playing 3 or 4 players, you can use both ways on the board. But when you're only playing 2 players, you can only lay down trains. So once that train route is consumed, you have to go around. And in some cases, especially in the western states, that can be a very wide range to change. Yeah. So a very, difficult way to achieve that. You can also block people. We have a general rule in our house not to block people, and
for marital harmony. Yeah. So that we have an unspoken, well, it's very spoken because Matthew used to do it a lot. He wants to stay in my good graces.
I have learned my ways. I have learned the right way.
That we do not put trains down that are not in our routes, just to, mess over the other person and block them from doing something. So if it seems like, I can kind of figure out what route he might be taking, and then I just toss some trains in the middle that don't help me at all, but that just mess him up. We chose not to do that. Your mileage may vary. You may decide that you like to do that. The games they're heavy duty. Really nice game components for this. It's a high quality game board, nice cards. They've got little plastic trains, and you can upgrade some. I think I've seen on maybe Etsy to get like wooden trains if you get really into it. It's just really pretty. Great artwork on this. It's just terrific to teach to teach geography. And then there is a junior version.
Yeah, there's a junior, but also if you get the regular version, we recommend you getting the 1912 expansion set, which adds in
Right.
additional cards, additional train connections, different
Mhm.
tickets to punch, which adds, allows you to get to some cities that weren't normally included in the original Ticket to Ride. So if you're, say, from, I don't know, Louisville or something like that, and you're like, why can't the destination be, or the inside joke between Ariel and I, no one's final destination is Milwaukee. But
So it's
you'll have to ask Ariel about that, her wonderful flying experience. And
no, I'm not telling that story.
You should.
No, I'm not telling that story.
Our Wisconsin numbers are dropping as we speak.
So yeah, if you get the U.S. version of Ticket to Ride, so the main, if you just look up Ticket to Ride as the main game, and you can see it in our show notes. That version, the cards are a little bit smaller. It has a certain number of routes on it. If you add this expansion Matt's talking about, I think it's 1910 expansion for the U.S., then it adds more routes and bigger train cards. If you get Ticket to Ride Europe, which is actually my personal favorite, they have a 1912 expansion for that, which gives more cards.
Yeah.
There's Nordic countries, but that only plays 3 players. So there's just a bunch of varieties.
And it's not just, expansions where you buy a new version of the game in a different area. A lot of those areas have different flavors of rules that they've incorporated.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the Switzerland one is very, exciting because Switzerland borders so many European countries. They have this element of going through Switzerland to get from one country to the other. So, like, I'm going to go from Germany. Your ticket to punch is to go from Germany to Italy, and you have to go through, Switzerland to do it, or you have to go from France to, Germany or something of that nature, right, through Switzerland. And those are nice little elements. They also have the thing in, I believe, in the Nordic countries, which is the tunnels.
Yeah.
And then in India, they have this kind of if you connect your train in a giant circle, based on how many trains you get additional points.
Yeah, they do some neat things like that. If you already have regular Ticket to Ride, one of the things I think the most bang for your buck is to get a map pack. So, so Ticket to Ride, U.S. and Europe and Nordic countries are all standalone games. You don't have to have anything else. They've got the trains, the cards, the board. It's all there. But you can buy these map packs, and that's what we bought for Switzerland and India. And the only thing it includes is one double-sided game board and the route cards for those 2 countries. So rather than having to get all the trains again and all the plastic trains and the train cards, it was much cheaper. I want to say it was just over $20 maybe to get a map pack, and we got 2 more maps with that. So if you already have one version of Ticket to Ride, definitely consider that. And then they have these smaller versions. New York and London are both those. They're like almost like travel Ticket to Ride. They're smaller city maps. There's much less scope there. They would be great for a child who's not quite old enough to play regular Ticket to Ride. I'd say a child to play without help, maybe 9, something like that, 8, maybe Ticket to Ride.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I think 9 might be better. It's just because there's a lot of strategy and you have to be looking around the board. But
you have to manage resources and stuff, yeah.
Right, but these city versions are great kind of, stepping stone to that. If you're like, I don't know if my kid will be able to play full Ticket to Ride and I don't want to spend $35 on that game, you can usually find one of those city games on sale for about $15. And so it's a great way to see if your family likes it and if your child is old enough to be kind of ready for that. And then if we take a step further back, we have Ticket to Ride First Journey, which I think is ages 6 and up. It's currently under our Christmas tree for our 5-year-old child, who has been playing it on the iPad very successfully. And it is a U.S. only map with much fewer destinations and fewer trains between. Same concept. It's all the same concept, but it's just easier.
It's easier, yeah. And then a nice variant of this, and especially for me, I've played on the iPad. I would really, really encourage you, everybody who likes board games, to definitely try playing some of these board games on tablets and iPads and even iPhones. I used to play Ticket to Ride on my iPhone a ton, and I actually got max high score a couple times.
Which is why we had to buy that expansion, because he got to the point where he had memorized all the different routes.
There's a specific Y pattern, double Y pattern that goes from Seattle to LA across the country to New York, up through Montreal, and then down through Miami, where you will get like 250 points. And I was able to do it a couple times. It was pretty cool. But
this is why I don't play with him.
Anyway, what's really nice about it also is that if you both have Ticket to Ride, 2 people, if you connect your phones via Bluetooth, you guys can play against each other. And this is really nice if you're waiting somewhere on like a train. You know, we used to play it on the ferry.
We used to play it on the airplane because it didn't require Wi-Fi. So the 2 of us could play Ticket to Ride against one another. I think you can typically find it on the App Store for
a couple bucks and stuff.
$2.99.
It's really nice on the iPad because it's really big. And then they manage all the resources for you. So you can actually play more games of Ticket to Ride on the digital version. And I've found that to be true pretty much for every board game that has been, ported over to an iPad or some tablet support, whether it's iOS or Android store. The other cool thing about that as well is that our daughter has been playing Ticket to Ride Junior, the
first journeys on the iPad. And I didn't think she would be able to figure out how to play that, but she actually figured it out. Yeah, she taught herself.
She taught herself most of it, and then I helped her a little bit, and then she now can play games and games and games of Ticket to Ride. And you'll turn around and after playing 5 or 6 minutes, she'll be playing for 5 or 6 minutes, and you'll see she's punching tickets and she's dropping down tiles. And I mean, it's amazing how playable it is on the iPad. And it's as a single player, because it does have that element of there's, you're playing against the computer, and, it does become like, in essence, a 1-player game at that point. So it's a nice little reward thing that we like to do for her, before dinner, or if she's done a really good job at homeschooling for the day, I'll let her play a couple games of Ticket to Ride. So you even look at, not just board games, but also the digital route for this game is very, very nice. So head on out there, Ticket to Ride, go punch some tickets. Choo Choo Homeschoolers, keep going.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!